Well, I think I just found my new favorite horror movie of 2022. And that movie is... Give me 1 second. Hello.
Hey, did you do your review for the Black Phone yet?
No, that's literally what I'm doing right now. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to call you back when I'm done.
Wait, I didn't tell you how to escape.
Oh, shh. I think I missed the last part of that. Nah, I'm sure it's not a big deal. So, The Black Phone was directed by Jason Blum. That's right, it's a Blumhouse. And Scott Derrickson, who left Doctor Strange 2 due to creative differences, and tells the story of The Grabber, a man who abducts and murders children in a small suburban Colorado town. And even though Ethan Hawke was all over the promotional stuff and posters for this movie, I would say the main characters are actually Gwen and Finney Shaw, this brother and sister that have to deal with bullies at school and an abusive alcoholic father at home. After Finney gets abducted by the Grabber, he gets put into this soundproof basement where he discovers this black phone that lets him communicate with past victims of the killer. And my first thought while watching this is it felt very much like a Stephen King story, between the paranormal children, the abusive father, the excessive violence, and of course, creepy balloons. After doing a little bit of research, I discovered that this movie was based on a short story by Joe Hill, aka Stephen King's son. And jumping right into the positives here, first is that this movie is just very simple with its premise and its presentation. And obviously I mean that in a good way. So many films now are just so over the top and loaded with CGI. So it's a breath of fresh air when you do get an original, easily digestible film like this one. And also it doesn't hurt that it takes place in the late 70s, because as you all know by now, I'm a sucker for really any movie that takes place pre-2000s. I think I just really hate seeing smartphones in movies. My next positive is that the two main child actors here are awesome. If I'm being honest, a lot of times in movies, child actors tend to annoy me, unless you get these transformative performances like Haley Joel Osment in The Sixth Sense, Macaulay Culkin in The Good Son, or these two right here. And as great as Mason Thames was as Finney, I think the standout performance in this movie was Madeline McGraw as Gwen. I just loved everything about her character. I loved her attitude and how she didn't take shit from anybody, even these kids that are twice her size, like when she's trying to help her brother with these bullies.
Fucking cocksucking cowards! Fuck you too, ugly ass face.
She was funny without it feeling forced, and then all of her emotional scenes just really landed with me as well. But their chemistry together is what made their brother-sister relationship believable. Just the way they talk to each other it really felt how siblings do talk to each other and how they tease each other. And considering this is like the central relationship in the movie, that really helped to elevate the experience as a whole. A choice I really loved is that we get a lot of screen time with these characters before Finney actually gets abducted. Like for the first 30 minutes of this movie, it feels more just like a character study where we have to see what these kids go through on a daily basis. And it makes the moment where Finney actually gets taken that much more impactful. It adds a new level of dread as opposed if he were to get taken like, say, in the first 10-15 minutes of the movie. And since we're talking about characters, of course we have to talk about the poster boy. Ethan Hawke gives a great performance as the Grabber. He's just like this perfect blend of creepy, disturbing, unsettling, and even a little charismatic.
I made you some breakfast.
What'd you put in that?
Salt and pepper. Ooh, the creepiest damn thing.
Where he absolutely disgusts you, but also you can't take your eyes off the screen with every scene that he's in. And also that mask he wears, fucking awesome. That is gonna be many Halloween costumes this October for sure. I just loved how throughout this movie, he has like different variations of the mask and then different ways he wears it that just kind of reflects his mood. Like sometimes he's only wearing the top half of the mask, sometimes he's only wearing the bottom. There's different variations, like one with a smile on it, when he's feeling more playful or trying to come across as friendly. There's one with a frown on it when he's angry, and that's terrifying. And then there's this third version with no mouth on it, kind of no expression, equally terrifying. I think they just really struck a perfect balance of how much he's actually used in this movie. I think the grabber had real horror icon potential if it wasn't for, I'm actually gonna put jump scares in the positive category, which I almost never do with horror movies. And the reason for that is that, yes, jump scares are used in The Black Phone, but unlike 90% of horror movies, they don't feel cheap, like they were just in there for the sake of getting a reaction from the audience. They were used sparingly and super effectively so that when one did happen, totally blindsided you. The first jump scare legitimately spooked me, and it caused one lady in the theater to scream so loud that everybody just laughed afterwards.
Don't hang up.
Who are you?
The movie did a great job utilizing Chekhov's gun, which, if you're not familiar, is basically a rule in filmmaking that if something is shown on screen, then it should have a payoff later in the runtime. And the movie does just such a great job with all these seemingly failed attempts at Finney to escape, where it comes full circle, and they all ultimately play a part in helping Finney in the third act. And then my final positive for The Black Phone is that it has some fantastic atmosphere and tension building. This is a really nice blend of a paranormal thriller, a murder mystery, and at times, horror. Which will then lead me right into my mixed feelings category, because I don't know if I would call this a true horror film. It is definitely unsettling, because unfortunately it's something that really happens in our day-to-day lives. And as I just mentioned, it does a fantastic job of building tension, but I don't know if there were any moments that truly scared me during the runtime. It almost acts as more of a suspense thriller, maybe based in a horror setting. My next mixed is that while I am a big fan of the editing in this movie, Scott Derrickson is really starting to leave his mark on his movies with The Black Phone and Sinister, where it's starting to get to the point where you're gonna watch a movie and be like, oh yeah, that's definitely a Scott Derrickson film. I love the 8mm shots with like the film strips, and then I love like the quick cuts, the black and white sequences. But the only reason that I put this into like the mixed category is that there were just a few moments throughout the runtime that kind of threw me off, with the biggest offender being the moment that Gwen learns that Finney was taken. She like runs out of her friend's house, and instead of the camera following behind her while she's running, they made this choice to like put the camera in front of her, and she's like running, but the background isn't moving at all. So it's just like super obvious that the actress is running in place. I'm sure it was a creative choice, but to me it just seemed like a strange editing choice. And then finally, my only negative for the entire movie is just that they killed the grabber. Now don't get me wrong, it didn't ruin the film for me at all. I totally understand why they had to do that with the story being told. But like I mentioned before, I just really think he had potential to be a modern day horror icon. And in the post-2000s world, we don't see a lot of those. I would have really liked to see Ethan Hawke do a few sequels before hanging up the mask. But overall, I walked into this movie with zero expectations. I didn't watch any trailers because Blumhouse usually gives everything away in his trailers. To be honest, I didn't even know what the premise was. I just walked in fully expecting some bullshit jump scare horror movie, and I walked out just having watched one of the best movies of 2022. Maybe I need to stop going into movies with expectations. Anyway, I'm gonna give The Black Phone an 8.75 out of 10 and highly recommend that you watch this movie. But that's gonna do it for my review of The Black Phone. Please let me know down in the comments what you thought of this movie. Was it one of your favorite horror films or films in general of 2022? Or were you underwhelmed by this? While I have you, me and 3 friends do a weekly pop culture podcast called Culture Shocked. Links for that are down in the description. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, leaving a comment, and subscribing right over here so you don't miss any future content. To see some of the other videos on my channel, I'll share some of those right over here. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.